these broadcasters. He has been introduced in absentia, and now I want him to talk to us for about 5 minutes what is his take on the subject of 5G broadcasting, how it relates to your organization. Thank you.
5G is just like me. It's there, but it's delayed. There's an ambiguity on what is going to happen. And the cost. So I represent News Broadcasters Federation. We are the largest industry body of television, news broadcasters, and digital news platforms. From a broadcaster's point of view or from a content point of view, our opinion is it's not going to reduce the cost, rather it's going to increase. The kind of money the telecom operators have put in to bid for the auctions to take the thing. I could give you a comparison. If they need to amortize this over the next 10 years, as a broadcaster, my satellite costs are not low, but they're still affordable. You can get it at around $2,000 to $3,500 a month for a 2 to 4 Mbps high definition quality. That's not something which is going to happen with 5G. Right. And you're right. There are more number of cell phones than the television sets. So what is going to happen to the 1,70,000 cable operators and 500 plus MSOs? No clue. You're going to actually throw a lot of people out of jobs. Right? The people on the ground who are responsible for broadcasting. As far as the technology goes, yeah, we a little transgressing on piloting 5G. There are a lot of services which have come in, but there is no clue, as the last person spoke. So there needs to be a chipset, right, or an app, and that has to be rolled out, right. In 3G, there was a very classic example of why iPhone failed. Apple failed in India is when they launched their iPhone 3G, the networks weren't there, right? So what happens to the networks then? Now who's going to put the money, right? So a little bit of color, this is on one side, on the little bit of color on the broadcasting side, there are about 950 channels. Out of 950 channels, almost 500 channels are free to air, which means they don't charge the subscriber. Now, is this 5G going to change the game? Right. Yeah, there are 400 channels which are pay TV. Their subscription once, since the last 6-7 years when they started charging anywhere between 50 paise for a viewer to 3 rupees, that's the maximum, except for the sports channels, the subscription has fallen. Are we going to see that kind of a scenario? Is 5G going to help the broadcast sector? Yes, definitely. But there's more challenges to offer. So I would just summarize, 5G for the broadcasting is like a blind man searching for a black cat in a dark room. Thank you.
Okay, with these intros, I think there is some time for us to first discuss a couple of things among ourselves, and then we'll come to the audience for questions, which will be very interesting. Actually, the 5G broadcasting is many things to many people, as we have noticed in the first summary of the introduction. So I will actually like to ask a couple of questions. First to Mr. Ravindran. You said about D2M, and I would like you to clarify whether D2M is a 5G broadcast service or not, number one. And number two, what is the work that your company is doing, as far as you can tell us, for the front end of for mobile phones for broadcast bands? So you have a couple of minutes to tell us what it is.
Yeah. Hello. So D2M is a very generic term, right? The intent is only to get TV broadcast transmission on phones. Now, the medium which we have chosen is a broadcast standard, ATSC3. So it is not 5G broadcast in the sense that it is not defined in the 3GPP standards. There's work going on to harmonize this. It's continuing. So yes, that answers the first part of your question, I think. The second part about what Sankhya is doing specifically for the front end of phones. Now, even in the case of 5G broadcast, you would, even assuming that your broadcast happens in the same channel, what telecom uses now, they would still need to do changes in the front end. Because basically you have to tune to a different setup, right? A different frequency of where the broadcast is compared to your normal cellular thing. Otherwise it becomes a either or kind of situation. So changes in the receiver side front end are required. Similarly, if they were to, the broadcast channel was to come to the UHF channels, which are currently the broadcast channels used by Prasar Bharati, they would of course have to build the RF front end for those lower channels. So in either case, there would be changes required in the receiver side, but mass adoption, the cost of electronics always goes down. And I'm sure as it transitions, you'll have add-on modules and then it will get embedded.
Thank you very much. To Mr. R.K. Singh, very briefly, what do you think is the impact of 5G broadcasting when it happens in the country to the broadcasting or broadcasters and all the industry as a whole? Just very briefly, please. Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, that 5G is certainly going to be a revolution. But when it comes, we have to prepare. I don't know whether public service broadcasting, All India Radio, Doordarshan or any other, whether we are really prepared for 5G or not. But one thing is certain, that as soon as it comes, the whole lifestyle of consumers, of how they consume the content, that is going to change. And then secondly, how the content is going to be safeguarded. That is another problem. Because it is not that everything is rosy about 5G. There will be problems. There will be contents, secrecy and how they are utilized. That is also going to be there. Otherwise, as somebody mentioned, that if you are in the sports, you save a lot of money because everything you can do at the studio site with the help of high speed and with the low latency. These two things are going to make a lot of difference.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. These are very pertinent issues that you have tried to explain. I'd like to go to Professor Satya. So you talked about the strategies and business models. Now let us assume that India decides to go in for 5G broadcasting as a principal decision. So what do you think should be the strategy employed vis-a-vis the whole industry, the devices, as you talked about, third-party costs? Do you have anything in mind?
Hello. Yeah. If you look at the current mobile network operators who have bid for 5G, Reliance Jio is also the biggest broadcaster in the country already. And there is news that they are going to acquire 51% of Disney Hotstar very soon. They are in talks. That's going to happen, which will make them the biggest broadcaster. So that we can see that they have a clear game plan. At least one of the mobile network operators who is there has a clear plan. The smaller broadcast players will be at a great disadvantage as we go. They'll be in difficult times. And we can see a lot more mergers and acquisitions happening and consolidation happening. Earlier you have seen how some of the technological companies like Google, Facebook and Amazon have become biggest media companies. And you will see more telecom operators becoming media companies. So there is a lot in store. There is a lot more churn going to happen through this process, is what I assume.
So you think that there should be a restricted approach to 5G broadcasting, or it should be left open for anybody to come in?
Sorry, can you
Whether the government should restrict a framework of only such people can do the broadcasting, or it should be left open? Just briefly.
Government government regulation has to come in place here. It should not allow few players to monopolize this space, because spectrum belongs to the nation. It's a national resource. How it has to be efficiently used for the nation's interest, which means people's interest, and how smaller players can be protected. There should be some kind of regulation, which is, it doesn't seem to be there. And this bidding process actually puts away most of the small players and puts power in few players' hands.
Well, thank you very much for that, and I'll come to Mr. Jayakrishna. You sort of represent the broadcasters providing the news to us, and you told us about how the disruption will take place, cable operators and others. So, but whenever a new service is coming up, you cannot stop it. One way or the other, it is going to come. So, what do you think that the industry or the current operators should do? Should they join the bandwagon and do the broadcasting themselves, or should they ask for any safeguards? From your perspective, what do you think should be done?
Since we are sitting on this broadcasting forum, so 5G has got multiple usage cases, right? The two big guys had bid at billions of dollars, but there is some sense that since media is going to be the largest beneficiary, it should not be penalized for that. There were pilots in other parts of India and also across the world. You can have real-time billing on your electricity, right? You can have e-commerce, smart commerce. You could have IoTs, and with the EV cars coming in, so this cost should not be amortized only with the broadcaster. It has to be done with everybody. One. Number two, to happen, right? So, like Sankhya, I admire their work. What needs to be done is you need to plan those R&Ds to develop those chipsets to be there. We are too late. We are too late on 5G. It's sick. And we need to also look at what is the impact is going to happen. I mean, I'm not sure how many people know. The largest JFK airport was shut down for 3 days when AT&T had to roll out 5G. Are we going to have that kind of a scenario? No clue. We are not prepared for it, right? I would say it's and in the pandemic like COVID hitting multiple industries. We have no clue, no policies in place, no regulations in place, and whatever, is there a pipeline going to be there, and this is what we are going to do? It's not there. We don't have a roadmap there, right? The first thing is we need to develop the roadmap by bringing in all the stakeholders, right? That is the primary thing, and then you execute it. That's my view on it.
Thank you very much, and you are advocating a very cautioned approach and a roadmap, which is a good idea. I believe that we have time enough for about 3 questions from the audience. If the audience are with us, I can see one hand raised. I hope there will be 2 more questions. So please be very brief and tell us what we want the panel to talk to you about. Please remember that we are not able to hear your audio very clearly, so you can speak very slowly and probably a bit louder.
Hello. Am I audible to the panel? Yeah, okay. So I have 2 questions to ask, and both to Mr. Raghu. My first question is, as I am sure most of us will be aware of, the 5G was launched more than a year before, and 2 major telecom operators, Airtel and Reliance, launched these services. Yet they have not been able to make much use cases of 5G as such. And as a consumer, you and I cannot differentiate between 4G and 5G until unless you are into the gaming, right? So what you are talking about D2M, whether D2M, because it's a converged technology between 5G and terrestrial broadcast. So will it not work with 4G? I'm sure it will. Am I right? Can you confirm?
Let me first paraphrase your question.
Okay. So my next question is, like, D2M is direct to mobile, taking you to the live TV, or both linear as well as non-linear TV onto the mobile. It may make a good business case for the urban areas. Whether do you have a plan for rural areas also? Because the kind of scanty populations that we have in the rural areas, whether the D2M will make a business case in rural areas as well. These are my two questions.
Okay, I think.
So the first part was D2M and 5G versus 4G, right? So D2M for us today, the way we are going about it, it's a parallel standard. So irrespective of what is happening on the telecom world, DTM is using the broadcast standard, which is popular and rolled out in the world today. So there is no direct link, right? So we are using the broadcast spectrum. That's why we are working with Prasar Bharati, which owns the TV spectrum as of now. So that is one. The second part of your question was about rural versus urban, I think, right? Whether it makes sense in rural areas, right?
Right.
Like D2M.
D2M in urban versus making sense in rural.
Right. So one of the use cases for urban, which I mentioned, was to relieve traffic congestion on the cellular networks. In the rural areas, remote education, where instead of having a fiber optic pipe, you would have a satellite feed to this broadcast channel, and since you can have an element of interactivity, so that you are able to get feedback from the students, and that has to be very low throughput return channel. And since this particular ATSC3 standard is an IP based thing, on top of video content you can give a lot of other stuff. You can give graphics mixed with video, immersed, and a lot of immersive stuff. So yes, it will have different use cases between urban and rural, but there's no limitation as such.
Well, thank you very much. Do you have another question here somewhere? Gentleman in front, yeah. Please be very brief and put us your question. We don't have time for the other background information. Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to know about the radiation impact on our health. So, stakeholders and government, what are the steps they are going to take? That's my question.
You want to say?
Should I answer in a more health sector or the technology sector? Right. Okay. I'll do a health tech combination. I'll try that. Yeah. The physics, as far as physics of spectrum is concerned, lower the latency, lower the radiation. I'll give you an example. The highest radiation is in the higher latency, higher equipment, which is your microwave. So are you going to get away with your microwave oven? Right. And yeah, so the less number of towers. So what 5G also offered on the technology point of view is, you will have far lesser number of towers. And you might have what you call the calyx kind of towers. You will actually not know there is a tower. Even now, there are companies that are trying that. You may think it's a tree. It could be a normal tree or a lamppost. You'll have what? Femtocells. So I think Sankhya is also involved. Femtocells and the microcells. So that will reduce the radiation. But radiation is there to stay. You can't help it. So it's just like living with a mask.
Can I add? Sir, I will just quote my experience. I have worked in megawatt transmitter, 1000 kilowatt. Now there are two factors. One is frequency, another is power. If the power is very high, but the frequency is low, effect will not affect you. In a reverse way also, if the frequency is very high, and the power is very low, then also there will not be problem. In our megawatt, I will just give you one example. There were many points in our transmitter itself. You take a tube light and you stand there. This tube light will burn. And surrounding areas, the villagers used to put only the bulb, and they were getting free light, free electricity. So this RF is there, of course there is a lot of research also has been done, and some reports have been just, they have not been made public. Otherwise, but some observations are there. When radiation is too high, you feel thirsty. You feel thirsty. It depends upon the blood cells and all that. As far as he is concerned, the 5G, this antennas will be very, very small. Power also will be very, very small. But there are measurements that in your area, suppose you want to do something, they will take the measurement. If it is within low power, it will not affect. Now, sir, what is happening in my society, in Delhi? Moment they put a tower, just 1 minute, sir. In just put a tower and there will be banner. Sabko cancer ho jayega. Sabko, yes, this is happening. And then they had to remove the tower. So this is all happening, and again depend upon how people take it.
Good that he didn't take the name of the society. Otherwise, people will be after you. Is there one more question somewhere? A brief question anybody wants? Okay, I don't see that happening, and then please allow me to conclude. We have discussed this subject, not of course very thoroughly, because this is a very new subject, but I am happy that there are some very good inputs. The concluding remark that I would like to make on behalf of the panel, for example, that what should we do? What should we do for 5G broadcasting? Should we do or should we not do it? And if we should do, how we should do it? Or finally, do we need 5G broadcasting given that our terrestrial broadcast system is not very up and running, for example, for TV? So do we need to get into another technology? But on the positive side, if we do 5G broadcasting, we have a potential 100 million smartphones as consumers in the next few years. So should we at least go to that consumer base and derive some benefits out of the consumer base? With that, I thank you very much. We have about 40-45 people in the hall at this late hour. The panelists are experts in their fields, and they have contributed their expertise to you. So thank you very much, panel, and thanks a lot for the opportunity.
5G multicasting and broadcasting and the realm of opportunities which it offers in this space. On that note, if I may request Sharad to kindly step forward and help us with the felicitation of our key panelists today at the forum. May we first request our first speaker, if we could have Mr. Jay Krishna to please join us and step in the center along with the frame of Sharad. A warm round of applause for all the views Jay has shared today and for the incredible work he's doing in the realm of opportunities he's provided in the field. Thank you so much, Raghu. If you may request you to step together along with Sharad. Thank you, Raghu, for joining us and sharing your wealth of knowledge and what Sankhya Labs is doing in this space. May we request now Mr. R.K. Singh to please step forward, a veteran in this field and of course sharing his wealth of knowledge today at the forum. Let's give him a warm round of applause. And if I could now have Professor E. Satya Prakash, Professor doing an incredible job not just in his university but also providing us incredible knowledge. Let's give him a warm round of applause. And to felicitate our moderator, may I have the opportunity of calling upon somebody from our advisory committee, the member of Broadcast and Mediatainment Expo, former Deputy Director General Prasar Bharati, Mr. C.K. Jain. Let's give him a warm round of applause. He was a part of our inauguration session yesterday as well, and of course being the advisory committee of BME. We request Mr. Jain to help us with the felicitation of Mr. Sharad Sadhu. Let's give both of them a warm round of applause. And with that, can I have the opportunity of having the entire panel with Mr. C.K. Jain to now give us a lovely photograph for all of us to cherish remember to hashtag BME Expo as one word.